Good morning, everyone. My apologies for the short delay.
The time is now 10:08, and I will call the October 30th Planning Board meeting to order. We have the following board members with us today: Commissioner Washington,
Good morning.
Commissioner Giraldo,
Good morning.
and I am Chairman Barnes. Before we get started, it has come to my attention that unfortunately, I must inform everyone today that this will be the final planning board meeting for the unforeseeable future. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond my control, the board will only have two members following Commissioner Washington's departure at the end of this weekend. We will not be able to fill a quorum that will enable us to conduct the planning board business. This, of course, is of great concern to me and the commission, but more importantly, it means a great deal of future projects for this county. Anytime the planning board proceeds to stop, development applications can no longer be approved. The commission's award-winning Parks and Recreation program is in jeopardy, is a cause for alarm, but I cannot remember a time in this great county's history when the work of the commission is more vital to our future. It is my hope that the county puts forward appointments as soon as possible for consideration so the planning board can get back to work as soon as possible. So in short order, there needs to be names submitted to the county council or to the county executive that then has to be transmitted to the county council. And unfortunately, that has not happened as of yet. I have been here since July the 8th, and I am waiting for those names to be transmitted so that we can have a full board. And as of right now, not to be redundant, Commissioner Washington is leaving effective this weekend or essentially at the end of today's board meeting, which only leaves myself and Commissioner Giraldo. We cannot have a quorum. We cannot continue to do business, and unfortunately, we are at an impasse in moving forward. So I wanted to make sure that I send that message loud and clear that it is out of my control or the control of the board that we are waiting on the county officials to transmit names so that we can have a full quorum. With that, we will now move forward with the business at hand. Please note that the deadline for all participation, pre-registration, and all submission of materials and exhibits was due 12 noon on Tuesday before the planning board meeting. Now we will move on with today's agenda. The order of cases for today's meeting is as follows: item 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
3C.
Chair, 3C. Supplemental item 1. Supplemental item 1.
I don't have it.
And 3C.
I don't have it.
And 3C, Joe.
Resolution of appreciation.
So let me go back. The order of cases for today's meeting is item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The first item on the agenda is item 1, resolution of appreciation recognizing the legacy of Gustavo Torres. Before that, I'd like to say a few words about Mr. Torres. We have before us a resolution recognizing the service and legacy of Gustavo Torres. Mr. Torres is retiring as the Executive Director of CASA after more than 30 years of transformative service. He devoted his life and leadership to uplifting and fostering healthy and sustainable immigrant communities. He grew CASA from a small operation with 3 employees into one of the nation's leading immigrant advocacy and service organizations with more than 170,000 lifetime members. He not only shaped an organization but forged a movement that will carry forward its mission for generations to come. Mr. Torres will be recognized next week during the CASA's 40th anniversary gala. We send him best wishes for his retirement and next steps in his next chapter of life. Is there a motion?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman. I also like to state, take a personal privilege that I've known Mr. Torres probably 30 years since he's been head of CASA. The only thing I can say about him is he was always a relentless advocate for the immigrant community, initially in Prince George's County, but it now extends as far as all of Maryland as well as Northern Virginia.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I vote aye as well. The next item on the agenda is item 3.
2 minutes.
Item 2. Draft minutes of October 23rd, 2025. We look for a motion.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Your Honor. Second.
It's been properly moved in second. We have the following commissioners with us today. I'm sorry. Geez.
Let's just have fun.
This is all throwing me for a loop today. We have a motion by Commissioner Giraldo and second by Commissioner Washington.
It was the other way.
Ms. Washington, did the motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Washington and second by Commissioner Giraldo.
This is all a test.
I will now call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo,
Vote aye.
Commissioner
I
Washington,
vote aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, team. The next item on the agenda is item 3C, supplemental parks and recreation item, grant of storm drain easement. We will now hear from staff.
Good morning, Chair Barnes and fellow planning board members. For the record, my name is Paul Sun, Land Acquisition Specialist for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Apologies, I wish I was there in person today, but due to circumstances, I'm not able to, and I am here virtually. We're here today to request approval of the granting of 3 storm drain easements to Prince George's County at our Collington Branch Stream Valley Park. Next slide, please. I don't know if I can see the slides. The subject area is being affected is on the north side of Leland Road, approximately 1 mile west of its intersection with Crane Highway, Maryland Route 301. The National Capital Business Park development sits directly northwest of our property. Next slide, please. By way of background, the preliminary plan of subdivision for National Capital Business Park was approved by the planning board in 2021. Next slide. A portion of the required parkland dedication by National Capital Business Park is along Leland Road, approximately 43 acres, parcels A3 and A4. Next slide, please. Another requirement of the preliminary plan of subdivision for National Capital Business Park is a realignment and widening improvements to Leland Road. Next slide, please. The developer of National Capital Business Park has been working with DPR, Capital Planning and Development Division, on obtaining a work permit to implement a Leland Road widening and improvements as it traverses through park property. Next slide, please. 3 storm drain easements have been identified and requested by Prince George's County Department of Permitting Services, DPI, across parcels A3 and A4. Next slide, please. They are rather minimal in nature, as you can see in yellow. Easement 1 is 790 square feet on parcel A3. Easement 2 is 1,836 square feet on parcel A3. And easement 3 is 248 square feet on parcel A4. Next slide, please. These easements are being granted to Prince George's County for the construction, maintenance, repair, and inspection of the storm drainage outfall for the Leland Road improvements. There will be no cost considerations for the granting of these easements. Next slide, please. DPR staff recommends to the planning board approval for the granting of these easements to Prince George's County. This approval will be subject to final approval by the full commission. Lastly, should the planning board decide to approve these easements, we respectfully request that the resolution be added as a consent agenda item later this morning. This concludes staff's presentation. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from the planning board? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the recommendation of staff and approve the grant of storm drain easements for Collington Branch Stream Valley.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I vote aye as well. We will now move forward to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items 4A, 4B, 4D, 4E, 4F, 4G, 4H, and 4I. Is there anyone who opposed the staff's recommendation on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, after consideration of the record for item numbers 4A, 4B, 4D through 4I, I move adoption of the staff findings and approval of the items on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendation of staff.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it, and I vote aye as well. We will now move forward to the regular agenda items. The first item on the agenda is item number 5, preliminary plan subdivision 4-24021 Upper Marlboro Gateway. We'll now hear from staff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, I am Salmin Monowar with the subdivision section. Item number 5 on the agenda is preliminary plan of subdivision 4-24021 titled Upper Marlboro Gateway. The subdivision proposes 4 lots and 1 parcel for the development of 168 multifamily residential dwelling units and 6,444 square feet of commercial use. The property is in the residential multifamily 48 zone, but the preliminary plan of subdivision is being reviewed under the prior zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, and the property's prior mixed use, transportation oriented or MXT zone. The property is located on the north side of Marlboro Pike, approximately 1,200 feet west of Robert Crane Highway, and will be accessed from Marlboro Pike via existing and proposed driveways. This application is also supported by an approved certificate of adequacy ADQ-2024-033. As a matter of housekeeping, the additional backup includes 1 exhibit submitted by the applicant prior to Tuesday's noon deadline and is entered into the record as Applicant's Exhibit 1. Applicant's Exhibit 1 is a request for deletion of 2 and revision to 3 of the recommended conditions of approval. Staff is in agreement with the applicant's proposed deletion and revision to conditions, except for deletion of condition 13. The proposal includes the removal of condition 1C, which requires the applicant to revise the proposed access driveways to lot 4 to be consolidated with the driveway from proposed parcel A. Can we go to slide 9, please? Condition 1C will be instead revised to be addressed at the detailed site plan stage as condition 8B pursuant to final site grading. Staff support this deletion and revision to account for final grading and to ensure safe vehicular access. Applicant requested deletion of original condition 8B, which required that additional woodland conservation be explored at DSP. However, staff were not able to identify feasible areas for this and so have no objection to the condition deletion. This condition is replaced with driveway consolidation to be reviewed at DSP, as noted above, and staff is in agreement. The applicant's proposed revision to condition 12 address feasibility of driveway consolidation to be determined at DSP, to which staff is in agreement. The proposed revision to condition 15 clarifies correspondence is to be provided by SHA to confirm any issues with the access locations proposed by the applicant. Staff concur with this revision to ensure SHA provides necessary comments for staff to complete their review. The applicant also requested deletion of condition 13, which implements a requirement from the 2013 approved subregion 6 master plan to provide an inventory of scenic and historic features along Marlborough Pike. After further communication with the applicant, clarification on the contents of the required inventory, staff understand that the applicant is no longer requesting deletion of this condition. In conclusion, staff recommend that the planning board adopt the findings of the technical staff report and approve preliminary plan of subdivision 4-24021 and type 1 tree conservation plan PCP1 2025-0025, subject to the conditions in the staff report as revised by applicant's Exhibit 1, except for the deletion of condition 13. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Monar. Are there any questions from staff from the planning board?
None.
Seeing none, legal will swear in all speakers intending to testify this morning.
All those intending to testify, please stand and raise your right hand, including anyone online. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
We'll now hear from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Abdullah.
Good morning, Chair Barnes, a member of the commission. Thank you for having us here today. We also want to thank Ms. Monar and all the staff for helping us with this application. With me here today is Mr. Malik, who is one of the owners of the properties involved in this development. Also with me in person today is Ms. Amy Summer from Charles P. Johnson. And I believe virtually Mr. Mike Lenhart, our traffic consultant, is online as well. This project is for 168 age-restricted multifamily units in 2 buildings that will be accessed through a private driveway off of Marlborough Pike. And there is 6,444 square feet of commercial space in 4 of the 5 buildings that are being saved along Marlborough Pike, along the frontage of Marlborough Pike. So I'd like to think that the commercial space in this development is not an afterthought, but is actually a type of revitalization here. It's not tucked back into these buildings that are off of Marlborough Pike and is staying along the frontage of Marlborough Pike to try to revitalize this corridor. This project also involves some public components. A large part of this project is within the floodplain. So one of the improvements that's being made here is a large stormwater management pond along with other stormwater management features that's adding compensatory storage for not only this project, but also some of the surrounding area, which reduces some of the floodplain around this project. Also, there's a network of trails surrounding the project that will serve not only this area, but also it leads to a public plaza that is right on Marlborough Pike, and coming off of those trails, the public plaza is required to have extensive plantings and will also be having seating and walking areas that can be accessed by patrons and customers to the commercial buildings and the community at large. The revisions that were noted by Ms. Monar are all correct, and we are consenting to condition number 13 remaining. We understand that it is a master plan requirement. We had initially pushed back on it because we did do a phase 1 archaeology report and had no historic items pop up. but I understand as part of the master plan that we do have to have an inventory for scenic and historic items along this corridor. So we are going to inventory that during the DSP stage, and we'll take care of it. Otherwise, we are in agreement with staff as to the supplement and the conditions and the revisions to the conditions shown in the supplement or applicant's exhibit 1. Again, I want to thank staff and everybody's time today, and we want to wish Commissioner Washington the best of luck going forward as well, and hope that the commission gets a quorum very soon for everybody's sake. Available for questions, and if there are any.
Are there any questions for Mr. Abdullah?
I have none.
No questions.
Seeing none, I don't see anyone who has signed up in opposition. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve preliminary plan 4-24021 and TCP 1-2025-0025, subject to the conditions as outlined in staff's report and is further modified by applicant exhibit number 1, with the exception of condition number 13, which shall remain as originally stated by staff.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I vote aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the next agenda item number 6, Countywide Planning Division, June 2025 Cycle of Amendments, -2018, Water and Sewer Service Area Changes. We will now hear from staff.
Thank you very much, Chairman Barnes and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Bobby Ray. I'm with the Countywide Planning Division. Agenda item number 6 is a review and recommendation for the June 2025 cycle of applications to amend the 2018 Water and Sewer Plan. Next slide, please. The role of the Planning Board in the review is a determination of consistency with the general plan, and also to provide any information and assistance needed by the county executive and county council in their review of the application. Next slide, please. The June 2025 cycle has one legislative amendment application, and it is for a proposed dog kennel located at 17507 Clinton Drive in Accokeek. Next slide, please. The proposed facility is 4,950 square feet in size on a parcel totaling 7.94 acres. The request is to move the site from water and sewer category 5 to water and sewer category 4. The request is being recommended by the county executive, and planning staff agrees with the recommendation. So we would recommend that the board forward that recommendation to the council. Slide 5. And that concludes staff's presentation. We ask the board direct us to forward the recommendation, and the council hearing is scheduled for November 10th.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Ray?
Questions?
Seeing none. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the recommendation of staff and direct staff to transmit the planning comments to the Prince George's County Council.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I vote aye as well. The next item on the agenda is a companion item, item 7 and 7. Item 7 and item 8. Detailed site plan DSP-25006, The Promise, and item 8, departure from from design standards, DDS-689, The Promise. We will now hear from staff.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am David Meyerholtz with the Urban Design section. Items number 7 and 8 are for detailed site plan DSP-25006, The Promise, which requests approval of a mixed-use development containing 448 multifamily units, 396 assisted living units, a 9,453 square foot daycare for 150 children, and 27,128 square feet of commercial and retail space. It should be noted that this site has an approved DSP, 19071-01, which is set to expire on November 17th, 2025. As such, the applicant filed a new detailed site plan application, which was reviewed under the prior zoning ordinance and with the existing context of the area. Next slide, please. The site is located within Planning Area 76A and Council District 7. Next slide, please. More specifically, the site is located on the southeast side of Southern Avenue, approximately 2,100 feet north of its intersection with Wheeler Road along the DC border. Next slide, please. The subject property is zoned NAC, Neighborhood Activity Center, but was formerly in the MXT zone. Next slide, please. The site is within a development district overlay zone. Next slide, please. This slide shows the site's topography. Next slide, please. This enlarged aerial shows the surrounding development, including the Southern Hills property to the east and adjacent residential uses to the south. Southern Hills is currently under review for a conceptual site plan, which proposes a mix of uses including up to 45,000 square feet of commercial uses and up to 1,300 residential dwelling units comprised of senior living, townhouses, and multifamily buildings. Next slide, please. Subject detailed site plan proposes 4 buildings, 2 surface parking areas, several site amenities, and a network of private streets. There are 2 access points on Southern Avenue, one for Hillspire Way, which is the central road through the site, and one for a private road located behind buildings 1 and 2 on the south side of the site. Next slide, please. This slide shows the landscape plans included in the submission. The applicant is requesting alternative compliance from sections 4.2 and 4.10 of the landscape manual to reduce the number of shade trees provided along Southern Avenue, reduce the width of the landscape strip along Hillspire Way within the site, and reduce the number of street trees along private streets. A detailed description of these requests is included on pages 31 through 34 of the technical staff report. Next slide, please. Tree conservation for this development is generally located in the northern portion of the site. Next slide, please. A network of pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure is shown through the site, including a Capital Bike Share station located along Hillspire Way, close to Southern Avenue. Pedestrian pathways are shown in yellow, which provide access to proposed recreation and patio areas. Next slide, please. This slide shows an illustrated aerial view of the development and highlights the street design of Hillspire Way. This road is designed with traffic calming at the forefront, with on-street parking, pickup and drop-off locations, large pedestrian walkways, chokers, and a mini roundabout, which are appropriately designed to discourage through traffic. Next slide, please. The residential buildings will be 5 stories on top of 2 garage levels, with facades containing a combination of brick, stone, cementous siding, metal, glass, and wood accent materials. A mix of inset and projecting balconies with metal railings are shown throughout buildings, which provide articulation across the facade and break up the massing. Next slide, please. This slide shows additional architecture. Next slide, please. The following slides show illustrated renderings of the site, first from the west. Next slide, please. Then from the south. Next slide, please. And finally, a ground level view. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting a departure from design standards for the following issues. 1, a reduction of the standard non-parallel parking space. 2, relief from section 27-579 of the prior zoning ordinance to allow loading spaces less than the required 50 feet from residential uses. And 3, a reduction in the street trees along private roads as required by the 2010 Prince George's County Landscape Manual. As discussed on pages 25 through 28 of the technical staff report, staff supports the requested departure from design standards EDS-689. Next slide, please. Prior to the noon deadline on October 28th, 2025, the applicant submitted Applicant Exhibit 1, which requests revised findings and conditions. The revised findings are to change the language throughout the report from assisted living units to apartment housing for the elderly and physically handicapped. Staff supports this change. The requested revised conditions are to conditions 1A and 5. The applicant requests deletion of condition 1A, which would require the plans to show a stub connection point at the southern terminus of Hillspire Way to allow for cross access for pedestrians and vehicles. Staff is amenable to removing the stub requirement in condition 1A, but maintains that future vehicular and pedestrian cross access should be required and noted on the plans, with final design and feasibility of the connection to be determined with the future Southern Hills project approval. The requested revision to condition 5 would limit the cross-access easement or covenant to pedestrian access only, removing vehicular cross-access from the condition. There's a technical correction needed for the record regarding this revision. The language submitted in Applicant's Exhibit 1 does not contain the full original text of condition 5 and is missing the highlighted text shown on this slide. Staff believes condition 5 should remain as provided in the staff report. Also in this exhibit, the applicant includes a letter detailing their concerns with the conditions. Primary concerns include through traffic from the neighboring site, the potential need to redesign Hillspire Way, and reapproval of the traffic signal plan. The applicant also contends that this cross-access was not required under the previously approved DSP-19071 and therefore should not be required under the current DSP. On through traffic, the recommended easement or covenant is not intended to be the primary access from Southern Hills to Southern Avenue. The Southern Hills development envisions 3 access points apart from the promised site, which will be shown later in the presentation. The access points envisioned for the Southern Hills site will provide vehicular access to Southern Avenue that is more direct and efficient than traffic moving through the promised site. Regarding a potential redesign of Hillspire Way, staff finds this road is already appropriately designed to limit vehicular use through significant traffic calming measures, which will discourage through traffic. Staff is not recommending any redesign of the promised site. No additional traffic plans would need to be approved for this development, as adequacy was determined at the time of preliminary plan. Staff conditions seek to create a future opportunity for vehicular and pedestrian cross access that would not require additional approvals for this applicant. Any additional traffic created by the adjacent site should be mitigated by that proposal. Finally, while the applicant is correct to note that cross-access was not required with the Planning Board's approval of DSP-19071, at the time of that application, the Planning Department had not received any submissions for the adjacent development other than for the existing solar farm. As the current DSP before the board is a new application, staff has analyzed the case under today's context, which includes the Southern Hills development. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the zoning code considerations for cross-access. First, section 27-290 addresses reducing auto dependency and roadway congestion. The applicant contends that their Main Street design, Hillspire Way, accomplishes the goals of the section intended for a pedestrian-focused lifestyle. Applicant states that routing vehicular traffic through the site is incongruent with the Main Street concept. Staff finds that providing cross-access will not alter the Main Street design. Conversely, the current street design actively discourages through traffic. The adjacent Southern Hills site will have more efficient alternatives to access Southern Avenue. This connection instead will support reduced vehicle use, as any vehicle trips between the two sites will be shorter than without the connection. This will be further analyzed later in this presentation. Section 27-290 also requires expedited transit-oriented development applications to be compatible with an applicable sector plan, in this case, the 2014 approved Southern Green Line Station Area Sector Plan. The slides that follow will address this in detail. Section 27-548, purposes of the DDO zone, includes encouraging compatible development, which complements and enhances the character of an area. Compatible development should not be siloed within its own site, but instead be integrated with neighboring developments, both existing and planned. Section 27-546B identifies required findings to approve a DSP within the MXT zone, which include the proposed development has an outward orientation which is either physically and visually integrated with existing adjacent development or catalyzes adjacent community improvement and rejuvenation, and that the proposed development is compatible with existing and proposed development within the vicinity. Staff finds that future cross-access is critical in making these findings of an outward orientation that is compatible with proposed development. Next slide, please. The site is located within the 2014 approved Southern Green Line Station Area Sector Plan, which was amended in 2023. This slide shows the development concept for the site and surrounding areas within the sector plan. This development concept emphasizes interconnected communities with a grid of streets. Next slide, please. The sector plan identified challenges within the study area, particularly piecemeal residential development along cul-de-sac, private drives, and parking lots hobbles the potential to create a network of interconnected communities. In its current design, the development would function largely as a cul-de-sac, not as an interconnected community. Further, the commercial uses proposed include a grocery store and a daycare. Both are neighborhood-serving uses with high demand. Staff find that increasing connectivity through cross-access will support the viability and longevity of these uses. Next slide, please. This slide shows the subject property with the adjacent Southern Hills site and its proposed access points. As you can see, residents of Southern Hills will have multiple options for accessing Southern Avenue. One using an existing public street, Wheeler Hills Road, one providing direct access to Southern Avenue southwest of the Promise site, and one located north of the Promise site using land that is already dedicated for roadway known as Southeast Expressway. Cross-access with the Promise will not be the primary means for the residents of Southern Hills to get to Southern Avenue. Given the traffic calming measures along Hillspire Way, staff find it highly unlikely that through traffic will be a concern. The transit-oriented district goals for land use and urban design include creating a grid of streets to increase connectivity. By not providing access between the Promise and Southern Hills, vehicle trips generated solely between these two developments will be pushed out onto Southern Avenue and Wheeler Road, increasing congestion on these roads and representing a public concern. A vehicular and pedestrian connection between the two sites would help create a grid envisioned by the sector plan. Next slide, please. As stated earlier, the intent of this cross-access is not to provide primary access from Southern Hills to Southern Avenue. The Southern Hills development will have 3 alternative access points as shown on this slide. Instead, cross-access supports the intent of the zoning ordinance and the goals of the sector plan. Transit-oriented district goals for mobility and access include providing a safe, convenient, and accessible transportation system that meets the basic need for travel via motorized and non-motorized modes, and to facilitate travel within the sector plan area. Staff find that providing an additional connectivity between these two developments will create a more integrated network of streets and facilitate travel within the sector plan area. Key elements of the plan for the areas around the Southern Avenue Metro Station include a parkway connection from Southern Avenue to Wheeler Road. The applicant for the Southern Hills development envisions this as part of their overall development, which will provide direct access between Southern Hills and Southern Avenue. The presence of this future road will alleviate through traffic on the Promise site, as it will be designed to be more convenient for vehicles without the traffic calming measures present on Hillspire Way. The plan further identifies goals of urban design streets and blocks, which include encouraging the design of high-value master-planned residential neighborhood off of Wheeler Hills Road based on small blocks, an interconnected grid of streets, and complete street principles. By implementing vehicular and pedestrian cross-access, this development will represent forward-thinking connectivity that is aligned with the goals and policies of the sector plan. Next slide, please. As stated earlier, without cross-access, any trips between the two sites would be routed onto Southern Avenue, either through Wheeler Hills Road or through the Southeast Expressway. The solid yellow line on this slide represents a trip between the two sites in the absence of cross-access. The dashed yellow line shows a much shorter trip that would be permitted via cross-access. Disconnected roads between these two developments would not decrease vehicular traffic, but instead lead to longer vehicular trips between the two sites and create greater congestion on Southern Avenue. Daycare and grocery stores are typically visited by those using vehicles for transporting groceries and for pickup or drop-off of kids at daycare. Staff find this connection will be mutually beneficial as residents of either site will be able to access the commercial amenities proposed without needing to travel out onto Southern Avenue. Next slide, please. This slide identifies the Go Prince George's Master Plan of Transportation. the master plan of transportation policies as they are relevant to this site. The policies outlined here emphasize the county's desire to increase connectivity, especially to amenities like those proposed with the promise. Further, while the applicant does not foresee any transit within their site, staff finds that if not bus, then paratransit and smaller shuttles should be accommodated, given that both the Promise and Southern Hills are proposing housing for the elderly and physically handicapped. Vehicular cross-access will allow for efficient routes between senior living uses and the proposed neighborhood serving commercial businesses. Further, and especially given the proposed senior living uses on both sites, an interconnected community with transit options provides for social benefits, including intergenerational connection, convenience and independence, affordability, and emotional and mental health. By increasing interactions for seniors and providing equitable access to those who may not have a personal vehicle, we are supporting a broader community with these sites. Next slide, please. This slide shows a precedent on an adjacent site for a bus route through a private street. My colleague, Mike Berger, will discuss the benefits of this mode split.
Good morning. Chairman Barnes and planning board members, my name is Mark Berger. For the record, I'm a member of the transportation planning section here at Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission. I'm here to offer some transportation insight into this development. So as my colleague is telling you, it's a mixed use development. So you have residential component, you have a housing for senior housing, you have commercial and daycare. All of these kind of work together out there in terms of people wanting to go and intertwine between them. Taking the data from the recent study, this development is going to produce over 500 trips. In this case, let's think of them as person trips, not specifically what they're using. Of those over 500, you have almost 300 are going to be from the commercial alone, and then about another 300 or 250 for the residential. So it all adds up to over 500 trips. Of that, at this very moment, before you even connect it to the other development, almost 60 of them are considered to be internal. These are just people that are staying within their own development and doing their own trips there. So obviously, when you add on the other development, that increases, as you kind of can think of this as a homogeneous development. The current process for doing analysis doesn't include a daycare component of internal trip or a senior living, because maybe somebody wants to pick up or drop off their child and they use a facility nearby, or they might be going to visit a loved one at the senior housing as well, and after an evening after getting home from work. So there's a lot of interconnectivity, and when you add another development such as Southern Hills, which is similar in terms of mixed use, it's even more interconnectivity, as you've already heard. According to the 2023 Census Community Survey, this is a standard tool we use to understand modal split. Modal split means how do these people move? You have person trips, and now you have a transit trip there, you have a vehicle trip, you have a carpooler, bicycle, pedestrian. These are all modes. So according to this survey, which is census, 25% of residents in this census tract, that's the area around this, it's kind of a zone defined by the census, 25% of these folks are now using some form of transit or carpool. So it's already kind of been surveyed out there. It's not specific to this site, but this general area near Southern Avenue is 25%. You also have the train station, as you heard, a metro station. That's a golden opportunity you don't want to lose. And specifically that last mile connection. You want to make sure you can get people to that train station in an easy manner. So if it's too long of a walk, they're not going to use it. They're going to have to drive there. And driving there is not much fun. You pay your parking fee and all that every day, and that adds up. And you'd rather leave your car at home. I know I'd rather do that, get on a bus and take it over there on a regular basis. By combining these two developments, you're creating a stronger ridership potential, because you need the ridership in order to potentially get the transit. As you can see, WMATA actually did serve that place next door. So the precedent is there that they could create a new loop that comes through here, or it could be a shuttle bus service. Also, as mentioned, the interconnectivity between these two sites is going to generate trips going between one and the other. And without the connectivity, they're going to have to turn on to Southern Avenue, turn off to Southern Avenue. And there's going to be a lot of that kind of using Southern Avenue as the connectivity. Those trips are going to add up. If there was a connectivity or they connected, they would not have to use Southern Avenue. They can come through the back and park and do their thing and then come back out the back. So that's also it's going to put a strain on Southern Avenue by not having this connectivity. Other benefits, emergency services. If you only have one access point to get in here or two, and there's a need to get a fire or other folks in here, and there's something going on Southern Avenue, you're not going to be able to get your emergency services in there. If there's a blockage on your promised main driveway there, that also could be an issue, whether it's a moving van or a truck unloading other goods. You've got senior living housing, is probably going to have some deliveries as well. And understandable, that'll be planned accordingly. But once in a while, something comes up and the truck's got to stay in the middle. These folks are going to be locked in their development. If there's any blockage on Southern Avenue, they're also stuck. If they want to go out, they're going to have to deal with the traffic getting in and out on whatever's going on Southern Avenue. It could be utility improvement or any other issue. So they're very kind of stuck into having that one in and out. And then sort of a tertiary thing, Uber and Lyft. When you page an Uber or Lyft, their apps tell you how fast can I get to your development. So if there's an issue on Southern Avenue, that Uber is going to take a while to get there. Otherwise, they might have that backdoor way to get in or get out. And certainly with a senior living, that's probably going to be a need that they're going to want to have there. So as I say, this is a moment in time to kind of make the right call here and to get a good connectivity in place. And it's also for the precedence there that the transit was there as well. And it's just good planning to make this connectivity.
Thank you. Next slide, please. In conclusion, based on this evaluation and analysis, urban design staff recommend that the planning board adopt the findings of this report and approve detailed site plan DSP-25006, departure from design standards DDS-689, Type 2 Tree Conservation Plan TCP2-2025-0056, and partial approval of alternative compliance ACL-2025-0006, subject to the recommended conditions of approval within the technical staff report, with the following revision to condition 1A. Revise the plans to include arrows indicating future vehicular and pedestrian cross access to the southeast at the terminus of Hillspire Way, with a note on the plans indicating that the final design and feasibility of the connection for cross access is to be determined with the future Southern Hills project approval. This concludes staff's presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you both for that presentation. Are there any questions from the planning board?
Just one question. Mr. Meyerholz, would you like to amend that you accept the amendments to the findings as outlined in applicant's exhibit number 2?
Apologies, could you repeat the question?
I said, would you like to amend your recommendation to include the changes to the findings in applicant exhibit? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, legal will swear in all speakers intending to give testimony. And we will now hear from the applicant's attorney. David. Will swear in.
All people seeking to testify in this matter, can you please stand, raise your right hand?
Anyone online as well? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Barnes, members of the Planning Board, and staff. For the record, Tracy Scudder with Reese Broom, offices at 163 Waterfront Street at National Harbor. I would like to start by thanking staff for the presentation and their review of this case, and for the numerous meetings that have taken place over the last couple of weeks. We do appreciate you all for accommodating every request that we've made to try to work through the outstanding issues in this case. I would like to briefly introduce the core team that I've had the pleasure of working with on this project over the last several years. We have Andrew Clayman behind me, the development manager for Petra Development. We have Torben Agason, who is the lead civil engineer for the project from Dewberry Engineering. We have our expert traffic engineer, Mike Linhart, joining us virtually. We have Mr. Tom Matea, who serves as our project manager, and my colleague, Melissa Carter, who is also a zoning attorney at Reese Broom. My presentation today is going to focus on the two conditions 1A and 5. But before I start discussing those conditions, I would like to begin our presentation with some relevant background and context regarding this project. The Southern Avenue Metro Station was among 4 metro stations constructed in the year 2000 when the Green Line was extended into Prince George's County. At that time, it was Southern Avenue, Naylor Road, Branch Avenue, and the Suitland Station. Though it's been 25 years since the Southern Avenue Metro Station was built, there has been no development within walking distance of the Metro Station. Bishop Glenn Staples, who was unfortunately not able to be with us today, tells the story that he was led to this property. He had a vision for this property. He purchased it, and he, along with one of his staff members, worked with the planners when the 2014 Southern Green Line Station Area Sector Plan was being written to ensure that this property was rezoned to a mixed-use zone that would accommodate this project, which he named The Promise. Bishop Staples partnered with Petra Development, and together they got this project off the ground. So this has been a long journey, over a decade of efforts to bring this transit-oriented development project to Prince George's County. We started working on the required approvals in 2019. The detailed site plan, DSP 19071, was approved by the Planning Board in 2022. That approval had a 3-year validity period, which will expire next month on the 17th. But getting that DSP approved was the easy part, you might say. We then had quite a mountain to climb. There was no infrastructure in place around the Southern Avenue Metro Station to connect to the water and sewer. With the clock ticking on our DSP approval, we had to solve this very big problem before construction could begin. Bringing water and sewer required an Attorney General opinion, and you might recall, Chairman Barnes, state legislation, House Bill 872, was passed by the Maryland State Legislature to move this development project forward and allow it to connect to DC Water. We have submitted a timeline into the record that outlines all these efforts. This is the reason we are back in front of the Planning Board today. We had to file a new DSP application just to get more time. That's the only reason. The validity period of DSP 19071 could not be extended. Of course, under the new zoning ordinance, the validity period for DSPs is now 6 years. But this project is being reviewed under the prior zoning ordinance, and we must follow those regulations. The fact that the validity period was consumed by efforts to bring water and sewer to the site was a big blow to the project. And it has taken nearly a year to get through this new DSP application, even though the applicant submitted the same exact plans that were previously approved by the Planning Board. We processed a revision in 2024 to adjust market conditions. So it was just last year that the Planning Board reapproved this project, finding that it met all zoning ordinance requirements, as well as the goals and recommendations. We're now in our 6th year of efforts to bring this TOD project to George County. At this point, the overall design has been solidified. Investors are lined up. Financing is in place, and the construction team is ready to move forward with the first couple of buildings. But now, once again, we are facing another potential blow to the project. Upon our recent review of the technical staff report, we learned of 2 new major conditions that are now being recommended by staff. Conditions 1A and 5 recommend a stub connection point for vehicular pedestrian access through the Promise. It's important to note that this development was designed from the start with private streets And every approval for this development, beginning with the approval of the preliminary plan of subdivision 4-19052, 2021, DSP 19071, that was approved in 2022. The minor revision was approved just last year, all found that this pedestrian-centric project, as designed, aligned with the sector plan's vision for development in this area. The design that we have today is how the project was marketed to its investors. The applicant and its investors have relied on the multiple reviews and approvals which have resulted in a final design of this project. Any redesign would add significant additional cost, more delay, make the project dangerous and less desirable for tenants, and would not add substantial benefit to the project. Now that I have provided that backdrop, I would like to speak more specifically about conditions 1A and 5. While we understand that the new zoning ordinance includes a provision that authorizes staff to require cross-access easements for interparcel connectivity, this DSP is being reviewed under the prior zoning ordinance, and that provision does not exist under the prior zoning ordinance, and therefore is not applicable to this project. We have found no authority in the zoning ordinance under which conditions 1A and 5 may be imposed. Beyond that, there is also the logistical challenge. The access easements described in condition 5 would require coordination with a theoretical, unapproved neighboring development. It would be inequitable for the applicant to bear the full cost and burden of providing and maintaining roadways for traffic that it does not generate. Any potential condition requiring a public use easement and connection to an adjacent property must include a provision that stipulates the connection can only be required if the two neighboring property owners reach a mutually agreeable common area maintenance agreement. Currently, the neighboring land is vacant and no approved development, not even an approved concept plan, creating such a maintenance agreement at this time is just logistically impossible. Conditions 1A and 5 essentially create a cut through to Southern Avenue. The final plans for this project have been designed with private roads and limited access to allow for safe streets, due in part to the fact that they remain private with limited access. The roads have been designed or evaluated for potential impacts the roads have not, been designed or evaluated for potential impacts that will result from a cut-through connection. Public access to this project is focused on the front 1/3 of the site that is just off Southern Avenue. And that public access does not need to engage the rear 2/3 of the site where the seniors and other residents will live.
For all these reasons, we have submitted into the record a modified condition that increases connectivity, but does so in a manner that is more reflective of what the sector plan and the zoning ordinance standards for transit-oriented development require. We have offered a compromise position, one that meets staff halfway by increasing connectivity through a multimodal pedestrian connection so that pedestrians, bicyclists, scooters, and other such modes of transportation will have access, which aligns very well with the goals and recommendations of the sector plan and the zoning ordinance. Because this project is within 500 feet of the metro station, within the 500-foot walking circle of the station, this project has been deemed an expedited transit-oriented development project. This means that at all levels of the review process, even DPI, the review is supposed to be expedited. It's a priority project for the county. And based on all the standards contained in the sector plan and zoning ordinance for transit-oriented development, a vehicular connection is actually at odds with the recommendations and goals of the sector plan and zoning ordinance. To be sure, this project is subject to the zoning ordinance requirements for TOD projects. Those requirements can be found under section 27-290.01B. Within this 500-foot circumference of the metro station, both the sector plan and the zoning ordinance discourage vehicular traffic. The main goal for TOD projects is to encourage people to walk, bike, and scoot around, not drive cars. Within that 500 feet of the metro station where this project is located, it's all about walkability. In fact, under section 27-290.01B, the planning board must make a finding as a condition of site plan approval that the project has used the best urban design practices and standards to reduce auto dependency and roadway congestion. And just to quickly note a couple of those requirements, the zoning ordinance.
Just to note a couple of those requirements, the zoning ordinance states that we are to create a high-quality, active streetscape to encourage walking and transit use, and that we are to encourage alternative transportation options over single occupancy vehicles, such as walking, bicycling, or public transportation use. Was designed to meet these TOD standards. A cut-through would overwhelm this development and create congested streets. This project is reducing auto usage as the sector plan and zoning ordinance call for, with a pedestrian-centric focus. We believe we have proposed minor amendments to the staff's conditions that increase connectivity for this area in a manner that is in alignment with the sector plan and the zoning ordinance.
Earlier, I mentioned that we have not found authority in the zoning ordinance under which the subject conditions may be imposed. We also do not believe conditions 1A and 5 pass legal muster. Conditional approval that requires an applicant to give up property rights the way that conditions 1A and 5 do are called exactions. And the ability to make these conditions relates to the Fifth Amendment's takings clause. As established in Nolan versus California Coastal Commission, each exaction must have an essential nexus, meaning that it must advance a valid public purpose and be related to the relief requested by the applicant. As established in Dolan versus City of Tigard, each exaction must also have a rough proportionality, meaning that they balance out any adverse impacts from a development. In this case, conditions 1A and 5 can never meet both of these requirements at one time. Currently, the adjacent neighboring property is privately owned vacant land with no approved development. There is no valid public purpose in requiring a connection to privately owned vacant land that is already accessible by public roads. This means that a required connection fails to have the essential nexus. Further, to our knowledge, there is no concrete plan as to where the conceptual development will connect to other parcels and to nearby roads, or how any potential development will deal with the steep topography directly adjacent to the proposed Hillspire Way connection. We understand from staff that the neighboring property owner has a conceptual development application showing approximately 1,300 residential units. A connection that passes through the promise would be marginally more convenient for these residents, meaning it might shave off a quarter mile from their vehicle trip as opposed to just driving around to the front entrance of the promise. But this would lead to several hundred cut-through trips per peak hour. Rough proportionality requires that an exaction be designed so that the developer's burden is equal to the impacts of its own development. Because conditions 1A and 5 instead have the developer bear the impacts of a neighboring development carte blanche, they fail the rough proportionality test. With that all said, and at this time, I would like to turn this part of the presentation over to Mr. Linhart, who again has joined virtually. Mr. Linhart.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I prepared a little written testimony I'd like to read through and then perhaps respond to a few comments that staff made during their presentation. As Ms. Scudder mentioned, the Supreme Court and the Nolan and Dolan cases established that there's a three-part test for government exactions where there must be a legitimate public interest, an essential nexus, and rough proportionality. And the government bears the burden of proving these considerations as it relates to the impacts of this development, not the impacts of a future potential adjacent development. It's essential nexus and rough proportionality to this development, the promise. Page 15 of the staff report states that this proposed connection would catalyze adjacent community improvements by connecting more residents to the commercial uses proposed in this application and to the southern area or Southern Avenue Metro Station. This applicant agrees with the pedestrian connection, is willing to agree to that condition. We would acknowledge that there probably is that there is a legitimate public interest and probably is an essential nexus and rough proportionality related to the pedestrian connection. However, the vehicular connection is of great concern. We do not believe that the vehicular connection is necessary or satisfies this three-step test. For the following reasons, staff clearly states the connection would catalyze adjacent community improvements. So they don't relate it to the application that's before you today. They relate it to a future potential project. The pedestrian connection provided will serve the purpose that is intended here by allowing multimodal access without the need for a vehicular connection. Residents to Southern Avenue or Southern Hills will have a connectivity to the commercial uses and to the metro station via the pedestrian connection. It is highly unlikely and highly undesirable that future residents of Southern Hills would drive to the metro station if they have a pedestrian access. The area is highly walkable and to the metro station, and there are bus stops along Southern Avenue in front of the promise if residents would choose to take transit instead of the metro. If vehicular connection were provided through the promise, the vast majority of the Southern Hills traffic would not be associated with the metro or with the commercial uses in the promise. The vast majority would be cut through traffic, simply using the connection as a shortcut to get to Southern Avenue and to points northeast or southwest of the area. Pedestrian connection provides this connectivity, but there's no legitimate public interest for the vehicular connection, as the interest is served by providing the pedestrian connection, which would also allow bikes and scooters. Southern Hills has alternate vehicular access via existing public streets. There's no essential nexus for the vehicular connection. Finally, the connection is not roughly proportional to the impacts associated with the promise. The promise has a previously approved detailed site plan that was found to be adequate for circulation, access, and connectivity without the need for vehicular connection to the adjacent property. The promise also has an approved preliminary plan of subdivision that has a traffic impact study and adequate public facilities approvals based upon its impact. During the original approval of the detailed site plan, staff required an extensive analysis of the internal circulation on-site queuing, and the on-site facilities were determined to be adequate to serve this project. Nothing has changed with this. The forthcoming CSP for Southern Hills anticipates up to 1,300 dwelling units, which could result in substantial cut-through traffic and adverse impacts if the vehicular connection is required. While staff did state today that Southern Hills is proposing access to Southeast Expressway, which on the exhibit that's shown on this screen, Southeast Expressway, I believe you can see it. It's a dedicated right-of-way to the northeast of the promise boundary that connects between Southern Avenue and Southern Hills. But the feasibility of that connection, the constructability and the viability are unknown at this time. That's accurate that Southern Hills is proposing that, but we don't know yet just how feasible the actual construction of that is. There's some issues that would need to be worked through to make sure that that can actually be made. And if it's not made, then this connection through the promise becomes a very attractive and really the only alternate connection for people that want to go further northeast along Southern Avenue. There were, let me see, the staff indicated that if there if future improvements are needed at Southern Avenue and the access to the promise based upon the Southern Hills proposal, then Southern Hills would simply study that and make those improvements at their time of approval. I would note that Southern Avenue is not located in Prince George's County. Southern Avenue is entirely within the District of Columbia, and therefore any traffic studies that are required for Southern Hills really don't have an adequate public facilities legislation to be able to require off-site improvements in the District of Columbia. The promise has coordinated with the district. They've reviewed our traffic study. We need a permit to construct our entrance. Therefore, we're constructing it to their standards. Any future impacts by Southern Hills, the county has no way to legitimately require Southern Hills to make improvements inside the district. And Southern Avenue is limited right-of-way. It could be potentially a need for a left turn lane into the promise if substantial traffic cuts through to Southern Hills. There is no room to widen Southern Avenue, and again, no legal means to make that requirement. Staff indicated that vehicular cross access is needed to serve these trips because there's a residential attraction in Southern Hills to the commercial uses in the promise. And as Mr. Berger testified, approximately 1%, I'm going from the approved traffic study for the promise. There's an internal trip capture between the residential uses and the commercial uses in the promise. Approximately 1% of the residential trips will use the commercial uses in the morning peak hour and approximately 10% in the evening peak hour. There's standard practice and studies would indicate that in close proximity, most of those trips are simply going to walk. You're not going to drive from one use to the other. They would remain on site. People would walk. The provision of a pedestrian connection only to Southern Hills would provide residents in Southern Hills the ability to walk to those commercial uses and to the daycare on the promise. It's roughly 1,500 feet or less to be able to walk all the way from Southern Avenues back to Wheeler Hills Road, deep inside the Southern Hills project. It's very walkable, very close. In urban settings, most urban dwellers will walk to shopping or daycare trips, and particularly shopping if it's a smaller daily type trip. If it's a larger, say, weekly, you go for the weekly shopping, yeah, you're going to take your car. More than likely, you're going to, drive to the store to make those trips. But there is a public connection today, Wheeler Hills Road to Wheeler Road to Southern Avenue. That would be an infrequent type trip. Again, the attraction between these uses, it's low. It does exist, but it's low in terms of traffic generation, and it becomes much lower with the provision of the pedestrian connection. We don't believe there's an essential nexus or rough proportionality to require the vehicular connection. Well, I understand staff's comments that it might sound like good planning to make the connection. There are impacts to this project. Again, it was previously approved exactly as it's proposed today, with findings that it was adequate. And, these conditions are being placed on this based on an adjacent property, not this property. Given this is in a TOD area and the pedestrian access is provided, we believe that is adequate, and the vehicular connection is not needed for this site, or for Southern Hills. If they do have their connection to Southeast Expressway, then they don't need this connection. With that, I'm here. I'm happy to take questions, but that's my testimony.
Chairman Barnes, Development Manager Andrew Klayman would like to make a few comments.
Excuse me. Thank you for hearing my comments today, and I appreciate the real
passion that staff brings to the table, and the way in which they have throughout this process constantly helped, guided, pushed us to really think through what's best. Petra joined with Bishop Staples early on, almost 7 years ago now. Our focus was to realize his mission, make it better than where he thought it would go, work with the community, and develop an exemplary project, and to do it in a place that should have but had not seen development. I mean, since the metro went in, there's nothing there. And we have worked through some extraordinary issues, bringing our investors along, our bankers, coming forward step by step. We've carried everybody with us, showed them the approvals we've gotten, where the project is going. Can I ask that the first slide be put up of the pair of slides that we provided? Not the staff map, but we put forth an exhibit. So while that exhibit is coming up, or not, I guess if you could go to slide 24, I think, of the staff's presentation, I might be able to work it from there. So while the images are coming up, I can tell you that the design we've been carrying our entire team on really focused on, making sure that we could provide the kind of central residential community. Half of the buildings on the site are senior, 45% of the residences. We put the daycare center and the child playground across from each other, but in the senior section, because we wanted a kind of community-centered condition. And as this project developed, there were discussions earlier about connectivity. Neither our neighbor nor the planning staff took us there. So we developed the design to be set up so that there is high traffic retail at the front. And I'm looking for the images. You've got our letters up, but it's the 2-slide image.
Applicant exhibit number 6.
Why don't we wait a minute and get that right?
Thank you. That will work. So you can see it here. The high traffic area is slightly shaded. The slower traffic area, you can see the retail zone and the residential zone. You can see where the daycare is. And directly across from that, where the building steps back, there's a green space. That's a playground that's been designated. So in looking at this, we have been very conscious over the last 5 years of development to really craft the neighborhood so that there is a common space for the residences that is a low impact space. I should note that as you enter, as truck traffic, right, delivery traffic might enter the site, at the street that runs along the bottom of the 2 buildings in Plan South, just above where it says high traffic area, that's not a vehicular street for anything other than delivery and service vehicles. That comes around, loops out. Yes, there is a traffic signal, and it does allow you to come in and out of the site, but the impact is fairly low. Can we go to the next slide, please? Of this. There we go. We know that there is potential connectivity. We know that the property behind us is less than a half a mile if they were to drive around to the front of our site. That's nominal if you're in a car, little bit long in both directions. But we do recognize that a pedestrian link fits within the mission of providing a walkable community, and we embraced that. We offered a solution that provided for all kinds of transportation modes, just not vehicular, so that we wouldn't have to worry about the onerous parts of working out a use agreement for private roads. We wouldn't have to redesign the road or the entryway. We wouldn't have to think about how we adjust buildings. But we can allow that connectivity in both directions, that pedestrian connectivity in both directions. The staff did a wonderful job in terms of laying out the bus and road transportations in slides 24 and 27. You can see them here in yellow, the connections across the property. They're very close. Also note that the vehicular connections that are identified here with the yellow arrows do line up with a kind of larger grid system. The Promise sits across from a national park. From a park system, pardon me, and there really isn't anything to connect to. So we're happy to provide increased sidewalk to the metro, increased lighting as part of our larger enhancement of this area. We're happy to have pedestrians come through our site and connect, but we really believe that it would change the character of the development. And the reason that I'm passionate about this is because over the last 4 years, I've helped shepherd the banks, bring our investors on board, found a potential partner to push this forward. We are poised and ready to go. We have a partner who will build 2 buildings, but they have misgivings if the roadway that we had told them was a walkable, focused, low-impact road becomes a high-traffic through road. What I don't want to see is, what I have difficulty working through is another major impact to the or obstacle that we have to jump to realize the project. I'm afraid for the development with that regard. I'm afraid what it'll do to the value of the property. I'm afraid what it would do to our potential partners who are looking at all 4 buildings. I know we are ready to complete our engineering and start horizontal work, and we are ready to start the vertical design work of two of the buildings going forward. And to put that in jeopardy while we, according to our traffic engineer, may have to do increased studies, may need to add expense to the project, I think adds a level of jeopardy for a road system that we think would be both detrimental to our project and unnecessary given the amount of connectivity that is available for the property as they go through their development scheme. So I ask you to accept the modifications that the Promise has put forward for items 1A and 5. And pardon me if staff has accepted 1A, and I'm not quite picking that up. Sometimes the lingo isn't quite right. But so we're asking you to accept the modifications we put forward, keep the project on track, and we hope that the compromise that we have offered will get the kind of pedestrian multimodal connectivity that would be an advantage to the entire community. And I thank you for listening to our very long presentation. And I know you've been with us for a very long time, and I appreciate that. And I hope we can see this realized very soon.
Thank you.
I'll be brief in my conclusion. Chairman Barnes, we've heard you emphasize the importance of community outreach. This project has been presented to the community, has received input from various groups, including neighborhood groups and county and state agencies over the last several years. The result is a development that has wide support as designed and is a development that can now finally be realized, as Mr. Clayman just confirmed. We believe that connectivity is already being reasonably provided through the network of sidewalks along each side of the internal roads, which connect to an existing sidewalk network along Southern Avenue that provides access to the bus stop and the Southern Avenue Metro Station and other area communities and resources, coupled with the modified condition that we're proposing for multimodal pedestrian connection. We believe connectivity is being addressed, and we believe that our modified condition increases connectivity in the area. As Mr. Clayman just noted, and I've probably said this before as well, Park and Planning staff has consistently made findings, and the Planning Board and the County Council have also agreed that the subject proposal in its present form, without the stub on Hills Fireway, conforms to the goals and recommendations of the sector plan. Moreover, as we have noted earlier, the project already has critical approvals in place, including a traffic signal plan, as well as the engineering work that has already been approved by DDOT after a year of review. As previously mentioned, the start of construction of this project has already been seriously delayed due to the inability of WSSC to resolve the water and sewer access to the site, a problem that the applicant had to address on its own. The project just cannot withstand another major blow. These new conditions would require a redesign of the private street that runs through the development, re-engineering of the site design, and reapproval of the traffic signal plan, which alone could take another year. These new conditions place yet another burden on the project to accommodate a design that does not yet exist. There will be ample opportunity for the neighboring developer to arrange for alternate routes without any undue burden on their design. So with that being said, in conclusion, we respectfully request that the Planning Board approve DSP 25006 and DDS 689, along with the applicant's proposed modifications to conditions 1A and 5. Thank you.
Ms. Scudder, are there any questions from the planning board for Ms. Scudder or those that have spoken?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Mr. Giraldo.
So, Ms. Scudder, is the idea that the cost associated with it is what's an issue as well?
It's the cost, it's the potential further delays of the project where, as Mr. Clayman mentioned, he's already got his investors in place, financing is in place, they're ready to break ground. If this condition goes forward, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and do some re-engineering, redesigning, potentially more studies. I mean, when you're talking about 1,300 units coming through that private street, it's a short little street. People are just going to cut through it to get to Southern Avenue. We don't believe that all that traffic is going to be stopping at the retail grocery store or the daycare center. They're going to find that it's a quick cut through to get out to Southern Avenue. And as we showed earlier, I mean, there are other alternative ways, to get to Southern Avenue rather than cutting through this development. And with it being so close to Southern Hills, as we mentioned, people can walk, people can ride their bikes, people can ride their scooters. That's what this area is supposed to be, walkable, to get to your retail and your services. So to answer your question, it's not just about cost, it's about the burden, the extensive burden that having to go back and redesign at this juncture, when this project has already been approved multiple times. And again, the only reason we had to come in with this particular detailed site plan application is just to get a new validity period. So, we are asking that you hear all the comments that have been made today and approve our modified condition that increases connectivity.
So we know with Southern Hills, there's a CSP, right? And suppose with that CSP, they required them to do a vehicle through, opening up vehicle through the project. Is that still objectionable as well? If you're not required to do it, but with the new CSP with Southern Hills would have open up for vehicle traffic?
It's a good question, Mr. Giraldo. And, staff, they may be able to answer it better because I believe they've spoken to the applicant for Southern Hills, their attorney. But from what we understand, Southern Hills does not want this connection either. They do not want to come through our private streets. They do not want to enter into a shared maintenance agreement. They have said no repeatedly and firmly.
Before you jump in, I could say that, if we go through the engineering And we work through and we start and build out the horizontal development work. And we have to come back in and change a roadway or adjust a light. It's worse than having to do it the first time around. So, they have an operating business on site. If they are 2 years down the road before there's an impact for us, ideally we would have buildings going up at that point in time, or we could have buildings in place before the impact comes back. I think this is the unknown that makes it a nightmare for us to deal with our banks, to deal with investors who say, wait a minute, we get all the way down here. I buy a pad ready site. We've got a building that we put up together and you're going to tear up our road at the moment we open. That's a difficult way to do business. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
not really. No. Yes, sir. Meyerholz.
Yes, thank you. Staff firmly believes that cross-access for all modes of transportation is critical in the TOD zone, especially for these two similar use sites. Both have multifamily, both have senior housing, both have commercial uses. So both for this site, we are requesting cross-access for all transportation uses, but for Southern Hills site, in conceptual design plan, we will be working with that applicant to design their site in a way that would encourage, that access point, as well as the applicant mentioned, several alternatives for the residents within Southern Hills to access Southern Avenue, not just this site.
Okay, thank you. And could we have an opinion?
I am actually very sympathetic to the applicant and what they communicated this morning, and especially because we as a body have approved things in a state very inconsistent with what the staff is recommending today. So one, I'd like to know why that's the case, because this case is being heard under the prior zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Which does not provide a requirement for what we're asking for in conditions 1A and 5. So that's what I'd like some clarity on, as well as the legality, the legal issues with regards to the takings that Ms. Scudder referenced.
Commissioner Washington, I'm Sherry Connor with the Development Review Division for the record. Just to address that briefly, one of the things that you can actually see on the screen right here is that there is an existing solar field. When this detailed site plan was initially approved for this site, there was no redevelopment of that site in the near future or known at that time. And so that's the big reason you see the change in the recommendation here. The CSP since that time has come in for redevelopment of that solar field. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to have interconnectivity with the solar field, nor would it be safe. So that's the reason for that. Some of the other items the applicant addressed of having to go back and redesign the road or redesign the intersection, those things are not anticipated by staff. They're not conditioned in staff's report as a recommendation. We find that the road as designed is sufficient for the low impact that we also anticipate for the roadway. There's another piece of this that we don't yet have, and that's the Southern Hills site and its ultimate development and design, which will come before the board later. As Mr. Meyerholz read into the record, we would be amenable to modifying condition 1A to take note of that on this site, it remain as designed without modifications, without the applicant having to go back and do any new studies or revisions, that it simply state and show arrows for future cross access to be determined with final approval of the Southern Hills development.
Okay, and so based on your last, would that condition then stipulate once the Sugar Hill, right?
Southern
That's a wrap.
Sugar Hill gang.
Southern Hill. Once that project starts, then would this applicant then have to come back to
No, so that's the reason we want them to note on their plan that that is the future potential access where their road really falls just short of hitting the property line, essentially in a perpendicular form. That then it would be the Southern Hills site that would finish that connectivity. The easement would allow that to go forward and allow the Southern Hills development to make that ultimate connection.
Ms. Scudder, does that not address your concerns?
No, it really doesn't, because, the concern we have is all of that cut through traffic coming through a development that was designed to have a pedestrian centric focus. We have a lot of
So as
seniors.
I understand it, the revised condition Mr. Myholt read into the record would just take note of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to understand literally what you're, maybe read it again, Mr.
So we don't anticipate cut through traffic for this roadway. In fact, our recommendations that we have put forward to the applicant for Southern Hills is to provide their direct and primary access to Southern Hills in another location, not through this site. But through thorough review of that application, which is forthcoming, we would ensure that, and based on the testimony that we put in the record here today, we expect that this will remain through the promised site a low impact roadway as envisioned by the applicant.
And you're saying there will be a cut through or not?
No, this is interconnectivity for neighborhood serving uses. The most direct path and access to Southern Avenue or to the metro station will be via a separate street from the Southern Hills.
To that, I guess I would say that if they're not expecting all that vehicular traffic to come through the street, then it seems that a multimodal, pedestrian connection would be sufficient, because it would allow multi-modes of transportation.
I'm hearing staff say that there would be no cut through street.
It would be a connected street. When we talk about cut through traffic, it means traffic not visiting the promised site. Vehicular traffic that is just cutting through.
They don't have to cut through traffic at all.
Correct.
Which I'm inclined to agree with, quite frankly, because 500 feet from a metro station, I mean, we always talk about walkability and TOD. Why would we add more areas for vehicles to move that close?
Right.
So, as the staff showed in their presentation, nowhere throughout the county in the master plan of transportation in TOD areas is it recommended that we do not make street connections in order to reduce vehicular trips. In fact, not connecting streets increases vehicular trips and congestion. And that's why we are recommending the connection. I think there is a public purpose served by it. It is laid out in our master plans. It's laid out in our master plan of transportation and in our zoning ordinance. The balance of impacts is that this site also enjoys then direct connectivity to their public serving uses and to other public serving uses, as Mr. Berger put forth, for potential reduced trips through public transportation services. Without that connection, you're really stifling progress of the county in terms of interconnectivity, in terms of providing opportunity to support commercial uses and their vitality, in terms of providing pathways for future mobility.
Really doing that, given that they're proposing a pedestrian increased walkable connectivity?
I think so. Like I said, it does not defer trips to not connect streets. If you're going to the grocery store and you can't necessarily carry all of those groceries if you're leaving
in an urban environment, trips to the grocery store are more frequent, and they're typically, I've lived in urban environments, so I didn't have a car. So I'm going to the grocery store kind of as needed, and I'm on foot.
Yeah, I understand that. Same thing if you're leaving for work and dropping your child off at daycare. Are you going to walk there, walk home, and then
Yeah,
get
in New York City you do.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is it doesn't reduce trips. The trips generated by Southern Hills are going to be the same number of trips. The trips generated by the Promise are going to be the same number of trips. It's whether you have the interconnectivity and multimodal interconnectivity to allow for
So if
less
we don't
circular
approve, if we do not approve or support the vehicular connection, rather, and accept the applicant's compromise, are we running afoul of anything?
The board has the discretion. It is recommended in our master plans and our sector plan, in policies and goals within our zoning ordinance. I don't necessarily think you're running afoul of any regulation.
Also,
For this discussion, would you please put up slide 25? And I would like to make a quick correction. The distance between the Southern Hills frontage, the Promise frontage and the metro station is within the 0.5 mile buffer, not the.
Mr. Myhope, so could you direct so the pointer can follow where you're pointing or talking to?
Sure, sorry, would you put the first slide up again? That has the scale. So here you can see the scale on the right side of the image is 300 feet per inch. So we're talking closer to 1,000 or more feet from the frontage of the Promise to the metro station. Now, some may find that walkable, but let's also remember that the uses proposed by this development are elderly and housing for the physically handicapped. So from an equity standpoint, we recommend greater access for multimodal transportation, including vehicular use.
I'm kind of favoring the compromise that was set out by staff, not requiring the applicant to put the connection, but when it goes forward with the conceptual site plan for Southern Hills, that it would be, they would provide the connection. It's like, I understand what they're trying to do. You guys are trying to almost make this a gated community. And I understand because it's the neighborhood that it's in. So let's be frank about it. But
take a break.
We've taken time over years to, first of all, stop with these, not with the where you have the streets stop in the middle of a development and you can't get from one side of the development to the other. And I think this being an urban environment, you need to have as much connectivity as possible. You don't want people to have to drive all the way up onto Southern Avenue. And if anybody's taking Southern Avenue, they know how congested that area is, and that so there is no place to expand Southern Avenue. So I think to take it as far as staff is now saying, you don't have to make the connection, but when it comes up with, if I'm reading it correctly, that when the conceptual site plan, that they will make the connection, takes the burden off of you. You can just go ahead and build as it is, and then you'll just have another street going through. I think it's consistent with the planning board's desire to have complete streets as well.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Giraldo. However, if people are going to actually take the time to get in their vehicle to go to the grocery store, I don't think driving an additional quarter of a mile to come through the front of the development, how it was designed to be accessed. I mean, the grocery store is right up front on Southern Avenue, and the parking lot is right up front, and the daycare is up front, and the parking lot for the daycare is right up front next to Southern Avenue. So if you do live in Southern Hills and you have a vehicle and you decide you want to get in your vehicle to drive right to the grocery store because maybe you have a heavy grocery shopping day, I don't think that going that additional quarter mile is going to be burdensome in any way for someone in their vehicle.
Except that you have 2 apartment complexes that are going to be for the elderly.
The other thing that Mr. Clayman was just, wanting to remind us of is that the maintenance of these streets. I mean, again, it kind of goes back to the neighboring developer. I mean, this has been put to them, on multiple occasions. They have been saying, even since our preliminary plan, that they wouldn't connect, to our private street because they don't want to help out with the maintenance costs. So that's, the trouble we have here is that it's going to be difficult to get them to agree. They're going to send all their traffic through that small street. It's going to be mostly cut through traffic to get to Southern Avenue. They're not going to be stopping to go to the grocery store, most of that traffic. And the neighboring developer does not want to contribute any to the cost of the maintenance of the streets.
On that note, we will take a 10-minute recess and come back at 12:10. Thanks. Do you have any final remarks?
No, sir. I think we have presented our full case today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff in addition to the findings as modified by applicant exhibit number 2 and approve DDS-689 and DSP-25006 and TCP 2-2025-0056, in addition to partial approval of alternate compliance ACL-2025-0006, subject to the conditions as outlined in staff's report and as further modified by applicant exhibit number 2.
There a second? I will make the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Why don't we do a roll call?
You're absolutely right. There was a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Chairman Barnes. I would now call the roll. Chairman Giraldo.
No.
Chairman Washington. Commissioner Giraldo. So yours didn't count. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote no.
Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Chairman Barnes vote aye as well.
Thank you very much. Luck to you, Ms. Washington, and all your future endeavors.
You just send me out with the bang. Thank you, Ms. Scudder.
Following materials is only needed. Next item on the agenda is item number 8, departure from design standards, DDS.
Item 9 is next. It's approved item 8.
I'm sorry. We'll now move on to the final item on the agenda, item number 9, Community Planning Division Preliminary Court Town Sector Plan and Proposed Sectional Map Amendment. We will now hear from staff.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barnes, members of the planning.
You all can go out in the hallway, please.
Can you all hear me now? Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Barnes, members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Josephine Selvakumar, Project Manager for the Port Town Sector Plan and Proposed Sectional Map Amendment SME. This is item number 9. The purpose of this agenda item is to present and request permission to print the preliminary Port Town Sector Plan and proposed SME. I'm joined by Arnaldo Ruiz, Deputy Project Manager, and co-team member and Acting Supervisor Emily Lutz. Next slide, please. As a summary of what we'll discuss today, we'll begin with an introduction to the sector plan area, including a description of the plan boundary and an explanation of how this effort builds upon the 2009 sector plan. Following that, we'll provide a summary of the planning process from project initiation to permission to print. This includes an overview of the community engagement process, key themes that shape the draft plan, and draft recommendations along with the proposed zoning changes. Finally, we'll conclude with the presentation with an anticipated project schedule and how to stay involved as we continue through the process. Next slide, please. Next slide. The Port Town Sector Plan area is approximately 1,935 acres and generally comprises the properties contained within the municipal boundaries of Ladensburg, Colma Manor, Cottage City, and Edmundston, all located within Subregion 2 and Council District 5. The town of Cottage City, Colma Manor, and Edmundston make up a part of Planning Area 68, and the town of Bladensburg make up a part of Planning Area 69. The project will cover areas within the Plan 2035's established community areas and neighborhood centers. Bladensburg Road is an entryway to Prince George's County from the District of Columbia, as well as a major commercial thoroughfare from Port Town communities. The US 1 Alt, the Baltimore Avenue, and MD 201, Kenilworth Avenue, are both prime routes for truck traffic and important commercial corridors. The sector plan area is largely residential, but it also contains a mix of other uses, including several shopping centers, employment areas, and portions of northeast and northwest branches of the Anacostia River. Next slide, please. To give you a high-level overview, the draft sector plan builds off the 2009 sector plan and its vision to build vibrant neighborhoods that celebrates its diversity and history, provides multimodal and active transportation options, and is a model green and healthy community for the county. It focuses on implementing the vision with 7 opportunity sites that can serve as a catalyst for the area, rather than showing entire blocks and corridors as new mixed-use development. Finally, the draft plan implements current countywide guiding documents by focusing development in one of Plan 2035 center designations and applies urban design street standards consistent with Go Prince George's. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The project team started the process of updating the sector plan back in 2023 with an objective to produce a draft based on an inclusive and robust participation process. In addition to the events listed here, during the preliminary draft plan period, we consistently engaged with stakeholders, municipalities, and research team members. Our goal is to shape policies, strategies, and recommendations based on the feedback received, ensuring alignment with the sector plan, Plan 2035 goals, and ongoing initiatives like Go Prince George's. Next slide, please. We connected with people in their communities and at events using a transparent and inclusive approach. We focused on engaging Hispanic residents by providing Spanish language services to ensure their participation. All materials were available in both English and Spanish. Starting from the kickoff in December of 2023 to the final open house in September of 2024, we connected with thousands of participants across various community events and held one-on-one conversations with over 350 attendees, gathering more than 540 comments. We engaged roughly around 50 students in youth events and collected about 215 comments. Next slide, please. This slide presents key themes the project team identified from feedback received throughout the public participation program. The themes helped shape the main policies and strategies for the plan, and they are design complete and connected streets, experience a diverse small town community, create sense of place, promote affordable housing and aging in place, invest in youth, create mixed use areas, and encourage healthy food and environment. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I would like to emphasize that the vision has been carefully crafted based on the key themes I just outlined in the previous slide. These themes are highlighted in bold within the statement here. The vision aspires to shape a unified future that honors and builds upon a rich and storied past. Next slide, please. The draft plan is organized by Plan 2035's plan elements, where each chapter contains policies, strategies for specific topics. While placemaking is not explicitly designated as a distinct element within Plan 2035, the sector plan formally recognizes it as a ninth element, complete with its own goals, policies, and strategies. This inclusion underscores its significance to the community and its critical role in advancing and the overarching community vision. Next slide, please. The land use refers to the way land is utilized and managed for various purposes. The land use element aims to foster a vibrant, sustainable, and pedestrian-friendly community around the neighborhood center boundary and the key opportunity sites. The economic prosperity policies and strategies aim to fortify its centralized commercial hubs by celebrating its cultural heritage and channeling innovation through revitalized industrial spaces. Next slide, please. The transportation and mobility element proposes to enhance the existing interconnected and multimodal transportation network and reduce dependence on motor vehicles to support mobility and improve access to destination services, amenities, and green spaces within and beyond the Port Towns area. The team collaborated with DPW&T, SHA, municipalities, key stakeholders, and resource team members to recommend urban street design standards aimed at enhancing multimodality, reducing traffic-related stress, supporting redevelopment, and transform the corridors into neighborhood main streets. Next slide, please. The transportation recommendations also focus on enhancing active transportation and streetscape elements around schools to support the objectives of the Safe Routes to School program. The housing and neighborhood element recommends offering an inclusive range of housing options that prioritize affordability through the production of new homes, preservation of existing community character, and protection for current residents and future generations. The healthy community element aims to boost community health and wellness by integrating green spaces, active transportation, and access to healthy food into built environment. Next slide, please. The public facility element focuses on providing a diverse range of public facilities that prioritize welcoming community gathering and programming, which enhances the community's health, safety, education, and quality of life. Continue to integrate emergency service planning too. Next slide, please. The natural environment element aims to improve the area's environmental health and resilience by advancing the stormwater management, restoring the area's greenways and blueways, conserving habitat, and expanding the tree canopy area to improve air and water quality, enhance public health, and mitigate the urban heat island effects for current and future generations. Next slide, please. The community heritage, culture, and design element celebrates the rich history and cultural diversity of Port Towns by preserving and showcasing local historic and archaeological resources, attracting visitors, and fostering community pride. The placemaking element focuses on branding, creating and campaigning, implementing branding, placemaking strategies, and implementation. This element identifies locations of potential right-of-way and vacant lot placemaking sites, as you can see in the map, but placemaking efforts could enhance visual appeal and make the industrial area more inviting, setting the ground for future departmental initiatives. Next slide, please. I'll now turn it over to Arnaldo.
Thank you, Josephine. Plan 2035 designates Port Town as a neighborhood center, but did not delineate a precise boundary. Therefore, the Port Town Sector Plan defines the limits of the neighborhood center. The precise center boundary has been shaped through extensive public input during the sector plan update to better understand existing gathering places for the community and a market analysis to help identify feasibility for redevelopment. Next slide, please. The result of both analysis and public outreach is a boundary that includes some of these natural gathering spaces as well as opportunity sites well positioned to serve catalytic projects, warranting focused investment of time and resources. This map shows the proposed neighborhood center boundary with a purple outline and 7 opportunity sites to help visualize the plan's vision, goals, policies, and strategies. Notably, 4 of the 7 sites are located within the center boundary. The first opportunity site is located at Bladensburg Road between the town of Colmar Manor and Cottage City, and also within the proposed neighborhood center boundary. The site has access from Bladensburg Road, which is a major thoroughfare for port towns and along a bus route. It is also close to significant resources such as Dueling Ground, Dueling Creek, Fort Lincoln Cemetery, and Colmar Manor Park. The redevelopment concept seeks to create a vibrant mixed-use development and central gathering space that brings together the community and greater region with unique businesses, services, and amenities. Next slide, please. The second opportunity site is located in the town of Edmonston at the intersection of Tanglewood Drive and Buchanan Street, which currently serves local industrial traffic. During public outreach, staff heard it was important to the community to reimagine industrial areas. This conceptual design aims to revitalize the area as a maker district, integrating existing industrial spaces and architectural features with opportunities for local artists and local agricultural industries. This sector plan defines a maker district as a mixed-use area that creates a supportive environment for small manufacturing, artisanal production, and entrepreneurial activity which leads to creativity, innovation, and local economic development. Finally, what was important to the team when putting this concept together was providing a general idea of projects that could be applied to other industrial areas within the sector plan boundary. Next slide, please. The third opportunity site is located in an unincorporated area between the town of Bladensburg at Edmonston. It's accessible through Decatur Street and Chesapeake Road, and is close to the Salvation Army Community Center. The market analysis noted a potential barrier for redevelopment in the planned area are the small lot size, which require significant lot assemblage. This site is one of the few examples of larger lot sizes in residentially zoned areas and provides an opportunity for residential infill to add a variety of housing options. For this example, we have provided townhomes and duplexes, but the site can easily accommodate other types of uses such as cottagecore and triplexes. Next slide, please. The fourth opportunity site is located in the town of Bladensburg at the intersection of Baltimore Avenue and Annapolis Road and within the proposed neighborhood center boundary. This site has access from major thoroughfare and is along bus route. It's also close to significant resources such as Peace Cross, Bladensburg Waterfront Park, and numerous historic sites. These concepts build from the desire of the community to revitalize this area by transforming underutilized industrial land into a thriving, resilient, mixed-use district designed as a sponge city that captures, manages, and recycles stormwater while reclaiming and repurposing land around Peace Cross. Sponge City acknowledges floating concern from residents while also showcasing opportunities for developing in harmony with nature and using more natural stormwater management system as a potential solution. It shows a mixed-use development with commercial on the ground floor and residential above along Annapolis Road. Next slide, please. The fifth opportunity site is located in the town of Cottage City along the DC border and is also within the proposed neighborhood center boundary. It has access from Bladensburg Road, which acts as a gateway into Prince George's County and Port Town from Washington, D.C. This road is also a major thoroughfare and along a bus route. The site is located across the street from Fort Lincoln Cemetery and is adjacent to Dueling Creek and the historic Dueling Grounds. This concept looks to transform the Eastgate site into a multi-use, multi-generational community that serves as a prominent western gateway to port towns. Next slide, please. The sixth opportunity site is located at the intersection of Annapolis Road and Lanover Road in the town of Bladensburg and an unincorporated area of the county. It has access from Annapolis and Lanover Road, which are major thoroughfares and also along both routes. This site is unique because it acts as another gateway into Port Town with the historic public playhouse as a landmark and anchor. This concept looks to create a dynamic eastern gateway into Port Town surrounding public playhouse by leveraging its cultural significance to create a vibrant, pedestrian-friendly, and mixed-use destination. The site includes another stream naturalization opportunity and connection to a greater Greenway and Blueway corridor. The site plan includes mixed-use buildings, live-work units, and plazas as a way to reimagine this area based on what we heard from the community. Next slide, please. The last opportunity site is located at Annapolis Road in the town of Bladensburg and is also within the proposed neighborhood center boundary. This site is also close to numerous significant resources such as historic Bostwick House, Bladensburg Branch Library, Bladensburg Elementary School, and the International High School at Langley Park. This redevelopment concept looks to improve the port of Bladensburg Shopping Center into a vibrant mixed-use hub that caters to the area's diverse demographic while enhancing walkability, connectivity, and public spaces. In this example, the site will have easy access to numerous public buildings and services. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The Port Town team is recommending approximately 54 zoning changes covering about 168 acres of land through a concurrent sectional map amendment. It is important to mention that all zoning change recommendations were made in collaboration with the 4 municipalities and resource team members during several meetings and work sessions. These recommendations support and facilitate the redevelopment of the opportunity site we just talked about and are necessary to implement the plan's vision and plan recommendations. Next slide, please. I will now turn it over to Josephine to provide an overview of the implementation and the project schedule.
Thank you, Arnaldo. Successful implementation of this sector plan will take time and require collaborative partnerships among numerous stakeholders, government, the private sector, nonprofit organizations, property owners, and residents. The plan includes an implementation framework that provides a clear timeline, identifies key partners and funding resources, and outline action items to guide development over the next 20 years. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This slide includes our anticipated project schedule for the legislative process, but can change accordingly. The District Council initiated the project on October 24, 2023. The team conducted existing conditions analysis and published it as a story map. We began implementing the public participation program from fall of 2023 through fall of 2024. We are now in the legislative process. Upon planning board action, the expectation is that the preliminary plan, SMA, and the public facilities report will be available for public review by January of 2026, commencing a formal review and comment period. Within public review period, the preliminary plan would go through a joint public hearing in winter or spring of 2026. After analysis of testimony and revisions made in response to the public's comment period, the planning board can adopt the plan. Afterwards, the plan is sent to the county council for their review and discussion. In accordance with the section 273502D4 of the county code, staff recommends the planning board approve the permission to print the preliminary report towns and a proposed sectional map amendment and transmit a copy to the county executive, affected municipalities, Historic Preservation Commission, and County Health Department. Staff also requests permission to transmit a copy of the public facilities report to the district council, the county executive, and the affected municipalities. Next slide, please. For more information and additional news regarding this plan update, please visit our project website as noted there in the slide. And thank you for listening to our presentation, and we are now available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the planning board?
No, but great job.
Very good. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant permission to print the preliminary Port Town sector plan and proposed SMA and transmit a copy to the county executive, affected municipalities, and Historic Preservation Committee, in addition to granting permission to transmit a copy of the public facilities referral to the district council, the county executive, and affected municipalities, and further grant permission to transmit a copy of the preliminary Port Town sector plan and proposed SMA to the Prince George's County Health Department to perform a health impact assessment.
Second. We have properly moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I vote aye as well. Before we conclude, Mr. Angelo, you can come up to the podium.
Oh. I'm the spot.
Okay. Just want to say congratulations on becoming full-time. Mr. Angelo is now a full-time member of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and working in the Information Management Division.
Fantastic.
I just want to say congratulations. You have been an asset to me since I've gotten here. I thank you for all the work that you're doing, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
This concludes all items for today's agenda. I want to thank the staff and others for their help. It is now 12:40. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.